Hey, Reno will be coming to DFFOO tomorrow, and I'm not sure if you're excited for his kit, but I am. The 2 turns delay, the party delay from his BT effect is definitely something very interesting, and I want to experiment on it, especially with my roster in GL that have more off-turn unit. In JP, I do have his kit, but I do not have that many off-turn unit to play around with Reno's BT that has party delay. And also I have 5/5 UW dagger for Ram, and now I can use it for Reno. Anyway, let us talk about his kit. First, his FR. Is his FR a good FR? Well, generally, I rarely use his FR as a main FR, so I'm inclined to say no. But sometimes you can actually use his FR as main, because every time an enemy act, if they are attacking melee or range, you get up to 50%. If they are attacking with magic attack, you get just 20%. Okay, so that is rather interesting. If you know that the enemy is only doing melee or range, then use his FR as main. It's actually pretty good FR. And have an enchanter that enchants lightning, so you can generate up to additional 20% for on turn. Okay, but anyway, I would classify his FR as the off-turn FR, and it's better with the off-turn team. Else, use his FR as Echo. Now Reno being able to be used as a DPS unit due to his high damaging HP attack, you can bring a generic FR and then use Reno's FR as Echo, build up to very high HP damage bonus, then you enter Reno's BT and then BT phase. So in that case, his FR that does inflict pyramid is actually pretty good, because if enemy has like a threshold attack, then they deal no damage, because that is what pyramid debuff does. So overall, I kind of give him a 2/5, but you know, putting in the way that you might want to play him in, maybe a 2.5 or 3/5. Okay, because his Echo has the interesting debuff and can work in an off-turn team. But most of the fight now, you will have enemy doing a mix of melee and magic, so it's not all the time that you can use his FR as main. Okay, so I still put his FR in a rather lower side on the score. Next is Reno's BT. Do you need Reno's BT? Well, I would say definitely. You definitely need Reno's BT, because without his BT, he doesn't have much HP attack from his other abilities, as in HP dump. It doesn't have a lot of HP dumps, and he have quite a confused kit, if you want to put it that way, because his FR is off turn and his S1 numb is on turn, because I mean S1 numb delays the enemy by 2 turns every time the enemy acts. So often one enemy to take more turn, but now you have a ability that delays the enemy. Well, it doesn't really make sense. So he have kind of mediocre kit if you do not have his BT. With his BT, a lot of things changes. His BT grants him a HP attack that does 11 HP dump, AoE. So total against 2 enemy, that's 22 HP dump. So if you do it right, and with UW 5/5, he deals even more damage than Arania. Okay, so he's pretty insane in damage, but it's not very easy to make him cap if you do not have any aura boss and relying maybe just on other units BT effect. He will not be able to cap. But if you bring characters like Charlotta, Ursula, which is a very good unit to couple Reno with, because Ursula has 50% additional HP damage limit up for HP attacks. Okay, so this effect makes Reno a very strong DPS unit. And secondly, his HP plus, every time you use it, it delays himself. He delays himself by 1 turn and delays the party by 2 turns. So your entire party get delayed. and hence it will ensure that the enemy will now be taking a turn. So if you have a bunch of off-turn unit, so every time you delay means more off-turn attack is triggered. Well, I do know that Reno himself does not have an off-turn attack, and we did have a discussion in my Discord earlier today, questioning if why not just replace Reno with another off-turn unit. Having 3 off-turn unit compared to one that doesn't do off-turn but delays, it kind of like equal out. Well, perhaps, maybe, I'm not denying that that could be the case, but anyway, to me the effect is interesting. I did test him out. I will talk about it in maybe a minute or two when we talk about how to use Reno, because after further discussion with Theologica, there is some setup that we really wanted to try out, so I will talk about it in a bit. Anyway, due to his unique condition, I'm giving his BT a score of 5/5. I might have a certain bias score in there because I really do like a BT with some new mechanics, and Reno does provide that. But how useful is his BT maybe for new players? I would say if you lack of a DPS unit and you are willing to invest maybe at least 0.5 UW for him, then he will be able to do very good damage for you. Okay, so that's that. Now, for his kit, I consider him as a delayer, a debuff with damage mitigation, so that's good for some enemy that does HP attacks during specific threshold. For he's a DPS, right, with 11 HP dumps, and a dispeller, his LD dispels, and he's an often enabler. So sometimes a fight maybe with enemy that like to delay themselves for some reason, or their enemy is just very slow, then Reno kind of force the enemy to take turn, so he can enable off turn in certain fights. So how do you use Reno kit? So the most obvious way, if you are going for his BT phase, then there is no reason not to use Numb. So Numb before that, because most of everyone is using him for off-turn setup because his FR is designed for off-turn. So we kind of like never ever use S1 because we do not want to inflict Numb on the enemy because it will delay the enemy when they act. But now if you are going for his BT phase, then you can even do a no boss turn setup. So by all means, you can use every skill in his kit and it will make a little bit more sense. And if you are going for a no boss turn, then his pyramid is very useful, again as I mentioned before, because you are able to mitigate the damage during boss threshold HP attacks. Another way to use him is to go for off turn. So this is where I discussed with Theologica. So because what I did earlier in one of my videos that I have just posted yesterday, I used a generic FR and then I enter Reno's BT phase and build up the FR, the HP damage bonus to 800+%. While I'm in Reno's BT phase, I delay the entire party, and when the enemy, get to take their turn, there is like 8 to 10 enemies turn in a row, and with core, just core as off turn, the enemies suicide, they trigger all of core's off turn and kill themselves. So I think there's one very interesting way to use it. So it is not like pure off turn, but you kind of like mix on turn and off turn, BT phase with off turn together. So Reno does bring that kind of uniqueness in terms of setting up your party. So I'm actually really excited to test this further. Like instead of core, I wanted to use Rubicante. Is that in JP side, I do not have Rubicante. So that's that. And if you want to use pure often, then again, I do not know how effective he is by replacing another unit that is supposed to be off turn. Like instead of having a full off turn team, now you have Reno dealing the enemy, giving them more turn, triggering more often. Okay, maybe I will do a video to compare that and to decide is it worth to actually use Reno in those setup. And for crystal passive, I would suggest D3 and D6 if you are really doing an often run, or else you can use A5 to help him boost up his HP plus attack, because A5 grants brave gain in between HP dumps, so that would help Reno to cap on his HP plus, because his HP plus doesn't have brave gain in between HP attacks. But he does have brave retain 30%. So overall, I'm giving him a score of 9/10 just because on how unique his kit is. But yeah, probably after thinking about it, there might be some bias on my side. So maybe let me test his kit a little bit more, and I will talk about him a little bit more tomorrow. Okay, so anyway, if you do not need that often, maybe you can consider him a 8/10, but to me that HP plus is really strong, which is why I gave him the score that I gave. Okay, anyway, wish me luck, wish anyone luck who is pulling for him. Hopefully we get his BT without too much effort. Alright, so have a good day everyone.